Okay, so I want to make this video talking about how no one in semi-isolated tribes have, you know, painful periods, cramps, or PMS. Okay, because this is sort of, for some reason, a touchy subject when you sort of suggest behavioral changes. A lot of women get upset about it. It's almost this possessiveness around pain, suffering, and tragedy. Okay, but it's just so I'm not gonna stop talking about it because it's just directly in our face. Um, and that's no one isolated or semi-isolated sort of situations are not they don't have painful periods or cramps and they don't have PMS. Like with PMS, I'm not yes, there's a collection of symptoms that people are calling, it's actually happening. This, mood stuff and that type of thing. But it's still just like a label that you're putting on a collection of symptoms. The symptoms are still caused by your, you know, environment and habits. It's caused by these, artificial lights and um, by all this like processed food, the artificial chemicals and additives and white sugar and white bread, you know processed grains and sugar, because again, no one in semi-isolated populations have that have the painful periods, even sometimes heavy periods, um, painful periods, painful cramps. You've been sort of fooled or tricked that it's just natural and normal when it isn't. Otherwise, explain that we know on an intuitive level that that's just true, but there are sort of studies and observations that show that a lot of issues that we have are not found in um, isolated and semi-isolated populations. It's just it's modernity that's causing all of these issues. Cancer isn't found in a lot of semi-isolated tribes because they didn't barbecue their food. Like their cooking methods don't cause carcinogens or acne. No one in isolated or semi-isolated populations have acne. Even very rural populations, not like modern rural populations, but pre-modern, ecocentric rural populations. Okay, you can look at people in these different sort of very isolated, not semi-isolated, or very rural countries in Africa and Asia, in the Americas. They don't have acne. You can look up I don't like the terms, but tribal or indigenous 17th century pictures, 18th century pictures, 19th century. If you do that in Google, right, I can do 19th century tribal pictures. Okay, and we can see that none of the people have acne. Why? Like, not a blemish, not anything. None of them have acne. Yet people act like acne is just this natural thing that we have to navigate through. And we spend all this money on doctors and these medicines, some harsh and dangerous. When I realized that, I just changed my. I used to have moderate acne, and when I realized that, I'm like, because you would Google it, like, does food cause acne? And sometimes it would be like, no, it doesn't. But they're lying, like how they lied about cigarettes. They said cigarettes were safe for decades. They just, lie. But then it's like, but these people in like semi-isolated populations, ecocentric populations, they don't have acne. So it has to be true. So I stopped eating, you know, um, processed grains, white pasta and bread and sugar. And I was able to almost experiment on myself because it's like I would my acne would go down and I would kind of, have a weak moment or self-deluding myself. I would eat some candy, acne the next day. Just to cut out sugar for even longer, my acne would go down. Try it again, acne. And I did that like 5 or 6 times until I just stopped, cut it out completely, and then I didn't have acne anymore. They don't have acne. Why? It's because they don't. I mean, part of it is they're not exposed to this pollution, right? But they don't eat the food that we eat. They're not exposed to the chemicals and products that we're exposed to. They don't. They're not bathed in these sort of um, this blue light. Okay. Actually, I shouldn't even be in it. That's dark, but yeah, they don't. They don't, and they don't have painful periods and cramps. They don't have PMS. It's like you guys is. Yes, it has to do with like your female anatomy. You have these more intensive, like hormonal and chemical sort of cycles and processes, but that becomes sort of bogged down and sort of um, put in a disarray because of the lights and the foods that you eat. Like I even saw someone do like they were vegan and they were like talking about like there's like no people say they were like no my periods haven't been lighter, my periods are not less painful. They were vegan, but they were like pulling out like processed artificial sugar filled foods, white sugar, like yeah, of course not. And it's like, and I made the same video about this. It's like people don't have a lot of things. People don't have ADD or HDHD in semi-isolated tribes. Like, say this for example, that in Amazon rainforest, some of these semi-isolated peoples, they don't have ADD, they don't have ADHD, they don't have acne, they don't have painful cramps, they don't have painful periods. And then even bigger, it's like when we went to like Hawaii or Puerto Rico or a lot of places in the world when these sort of monarchical invasions were taking place, they were doing a lot of documentation and records. There was no reports or documentation of mass sort of psychosis or instability in Hawaii or Puerto Rico. You know how, like, in our current society, we talk about therapy like it's this natural, organic, almost rite of passage or something, or it's like oxygen or water? No. There wasn't mass anxiety, mass depression, mass insanity, essentially, in any of these places. That's just all of this is just a modern occurrence. It's a modern invention because modernity brought or produced these lights, this toxic food, in our polluted water and our polluted air. Like how they put like chlorine in our water or fluoride and stuff like that. Like it's right in front of our face. You can just look at them. It's not even semi-isolated people in parts of Asia and Africa and the Americas. They just don't have access to like these modern things. They don't have acne. Like I don't like those videos. Like it's kind of dehumanizing, objectifying. But like tribal people try this food and that food. They don't have acne.